Have you ever heard stories of eating fetuses? Legend has it that if a mother consumes a female fetus, she will give birth to a son. I am that son, born after my mother ate such a fetus. Adults always say children remember nothing before the age of 3. But I remember. I remember vividly how I was pulled from my mother's womb. I remember my naked body being slapped hard on the bottom to make me cry. I remember someone prying my legs apart, peering between my thighs, then erupting in excitement. "It's a boy, it's a boy!" A cheer rose from the crowd. The woman who bore me, my mother, lay in a pool of fresh red blood, her pale face stretched into a satisfied smile. And me. I only remember not understanding. I didn't know what any of it meant. It wasn't until I gradually grew, when the lessons, the gazes, and the relentless expectations enveloped me, that I understood those memories actually carried a terrible meaning. I never told anyone that I remembered everything from before I was 3, because if I did, they wouldn't believe me. They would just laugh, stroking my cheek with rough, dry hands, dotingly saying, "Yes, yes, whatever my son says is true. My son is truly the star God when incarnated on earth." "What do you call them if not sisters?" I once asked my neighbor Ethan. I had 2 older sisters, one about 13, the other about 10. He had 4 or 5 more, but every one of them was bony, their faces as gray as mud. Ethan, though, was fair-skinned, plump, and round, as if he'd siphoned off all his sister's vitality to grow. I didn't understand why such strange thoughts always festered in my mind. He was 2 or 3 years older than me, knew more things, and naturally treated me as his junior, chattering endlessly. "Sisters? No, call them pigs, chickens, dogs, anything you want, just not people. Not sisters." I stared blankly. He continued, "They're born to feed us. Do you know what feed means? Like the vegetables in the fields, you have to water and fertilize them to make them grow. And those sisters are just that pile of watered fertilizer." He paused. "At your house, have your dog or cat gotten dirty yet?" I shook my head, not understanding dirty. "It's blood," he replied. "When girls get blood, it means they're ready to have babies. Once they give birth, you trade them for food. With food, we can grow. And when we grow up, we have to carry on the family line. It's a heavy burden." I remembered the deepest moment in my memory, the day I was brought into this world in blood and tears, and suddenly a flicker of doubt quietly ignited. Isn't having children a woman's job? Then why do people say continuing the family line is a man's responsibility? How much blood did the person who gave birth to that tiny being shed that year? Wasn't it my mother? She's not a man. I once asked Sarah, my eldest sister, "Sarah, have you gotten dirty yet?" Sarah, clearly a human being, her face dark and gaunt to a pathetic degree, still managed to blush deeply with shame. Her voice trembled. "No, not yet." I leaned into her ear, whispering as if sharing a secret. "Sarah, if you do, don't tell anyone. Ethan from next door said that if a girl gets dirty, she'll be traded for rice." Sarah was even more astonished, but what made her tremble didn't seem to be the idea of being traded for food herself, but my very words. Another time, I repeated those words to my other sister, Lily. She just smiled sadly. "Little brother, what are you saying? Weren't we born precisely to be traded for food?" She then quickly said, "Quick, bow your head, Jay. Mother is praying for blessings for you." Every few years, our village held a solemn, yet bizarre, ceremony. I didn't know the meaning of the ritual, only that each time, a chosen woman was led onto a high platform in the village square, performing strange gestures, both solemn and chilling, amidst echoing chants. The adults said she was the divine maiden, a person sacrificed to pray for favorable rain and winds and bountiful harvests. That time, I looked up. I clearly saw the divine maiden's eyes, cold and filled with tears. My mother quickly pressed my head down, forcing me to bow, but I couldn't forget the question that gnawed at my heart. Does the divine maiden cry to pray for blessings? Don't people only cry when they're scared, shamed, or in pain? I only shed tears when I'm beaten, locked up, or punished. That night, only the women and girls were home. I asked my mother again, "Where's father? Where's grandfather? Where are my uncles?" Mother paused, hesitant for a moment, but then embraced me soothingly. "They went to the divine maiden to ask for good fortune." I didn't understand what good fortune was, much less how one asked for it. I asked again. This time, Mother didn't answer. She only held me tighter than usual, as if afraid I would ask something I shouldn't. That night, in a daze, I heard the door open. Father returned, bringing the chill of the late night and a strange scent. He slipped under the covers. Mother whispered, "The good fortune, did you obtain it?" Father laughed, Excellent. The good fortune has been granted. I guarantee the next one will still be a son. After that night of ritual, I never saw the divine maiden again, but I truly longed to see her. I wanted to ask how one prayed for favorable rain and winds. Was it truly thanks to those tears? I searched and searched all over the village but saw no trace of the divine maiden. Out of desperation, I ran to my parents, making a scene, crying and demanding to see the divine maiden again. Mother tried to console me, but eventually, helplessly, she said, "The divine maiden only descends to earth for one day. Once her task is done, she returns to the heavens. She will come again next year." Infuriated, I tugged at my mother's dry, tangled hair. "What task? My business isn't finished yet. How could she leave? I want her back." My entire family was flustered, clumsily trying to appease me. In truth, I didn't really want to see the divine maiden that badly. I just wanted to cause trouble, to stir things up, to see their awkward, anxious, weary faces, because I knew they all revolved around me. When I was 5, Mother became pregnant again. I often lay on her belly, listening to the faint sounds emanating from within. The villagers would tease me, "Jay, is it a boy or a girl in Mother's tummy?" I honestly shook my head. "I don't know, either is fine." Everyone burst out laughing. "No, you have to choose one. If you guess right, you get a chicken egg." I pouted. "I don't need it. I have plenty of eggs at home." To my surprise, the moment I finished speaking, they surrounded me, pressing down with threats. "If you don't say, Mother won't take you home today. We'll leave you alone on the mountain for the wolves to eat." I feared the mountain most. It was gloomy. Man-eating monsters lurked there, and I'd heard they especially liked to eat children. In a panic, I blurted out, "A girl?" The moment the words left my lips, the atmosphere around me turned frigid. My mother's face darkened, so black it seemed it could drip ink. I still didn't understand what was happening. I just noticed they finally let go, no longer threatening me. So I happily lay back down, pressed my face to my mother's belly, listening to the tiny sounds like a ticking drum in the night. But today, Ethan said it was a girl. What should we do? Has the divine maiden's blessing lost its power? I stirred awake. My pillow was empty, no one beside me, but from outside the window I heard whispers in the dead of night. I tiptoed out of bed, pressing my ear to the door, eavesdropping. A low, hoarse man's voice replied, "Precisely because children's eyes are keen, what they say is often true. Perhaps the blessing wasn't enough. Tomorrow, we'll find someone to get rid of this fetus. And it won't be a waste. We can cook and eat it. Who knows, maybe next time it'll be a boy." I didn't fully grasp their meaning. I only felt sleepy, a fog of drowsiness swallowing me whole. I crawled back into bed, pulled up the blanket, and sank back into sleep. Unaware, the darkness outside was slowly devouring a life yet to be born. The next day, I played outside until I was drenched in sweat before finally heading home. The moment I stepped through the door, I smelled something cooking, a strong, fishy odor mingled with a faint, flickering scent of fire. I excitedly thought, "It must be meat. Today I'll finally get to eat meat." I rushed towards the kitchen, but Mother suddenly appeared, swiftly scooped me up, and pulled me away from the kitchen entrance. I looked up at her and nearly screamed. Her face was ghastly white, her cloudy eyes protruded abnormally from their sockets, bulging. Her face was covered in a network of wrinkles, like the gnarled bark of the old tree in our yard, rough and grayish. She clutched me tightly, my face pressing against her bony, sharp shoulder. And in that instant, I smelled it, the pungent, cloying odor of blood, of dense meat. Then I noticed something else unusual. Mother's belly had flattened. I innocently asked, "Mother, where's your tummy? Where did the baby in your belly go?" That evening, there was no meat feast for me as I'd imagined. There was only a bowl full of meat, but it wasn't for me. Mother squatted by the door, cradling the entire bowl and eating it. Beside her was Aunt Helen, also silently chewing and swallowing each piece. I ran over, my eyes wide with anticipation, but they wouldn't let me touch it. I was furious, truly furious. I pouted, refusing to eat anything else on the table. No one could appease me. I wanted to use my childish anger to protest. Grandmother rushed after me frantically. "Jay, eat something, you'll starve," I declared. "I want to eat meat. If you give me meat, I'll eat." So they had no choice but to kill another chicken. Killing a chicken was easier than letting me eat from that bowl of meat. Why? What kind of precious meat was it, after all? When no one was looking, I stealthily slipped into the kitchen, searching everywhere. Finally, in a hidden corner, I found the pot. On its lid was a familiar bowl, the very one my mother had been eating from earlier. I tiptoed onto a chair, reached up, and opened the lid. Whoosh! A wave of hot, foul-smelling steam blasted out, so potent it made me dizzy. Inside were chunks of meat and bone, hastily cooked, fragmented, as if someone hadn't wanted to leave any recognizable shape. I stared at the bowl. Amidst the thick, viscous liquid, a piece of skin floated, revealing a tiny wrinkle like the skin of a newborn baby. My gaze met the reflection in the liquid. Click. The kitchen door swung open. In that moment, I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I fainted, my eyes still open. "This child is possessed by a demon," a deep, low male voice echoed, cold as if from a deep well. "The fetus you just aborted was a girl, wasn't it? Girls are always an ill omen. Only boys are reincarnated immortals. To demons, a boy's flesh is like Tang Sanzang's purest and most delicious. How could you let him see such a filthy thing?" "What should we do then? I can't lose Jay." "Please, Great Master, help us. Help us kill that filthy demon." "All right, take the remaining meat to the mountain and feed it to the wolves. Don't leave a single piece. Let it die incomplete without a soul. I will draw a talisman. The demon will never be able to take shape again." "Thank you, Great Master, thank you, sir." I woke up. In my delirium, I had dreamed. I saw a newborn baby, its body torn and mangled, floating in a stream of blood, still smiling at me. It asked, "Why are you still alive? Why are you the exception?" I didn't understand. I was terrified. I tried to escape. Finally, I screamed in my dream and startled awake. My family huddled around me, their eyes filled with worry. My mother clutched me tightly, wailing. Her sobs burst from deep within her chest, hoarse as a knife scraping against my ears. I involuntarily started to wonder. I was just a little scared. Why was Mother crying so tragically? And when that baby died, why didn't she shed a single tear? Ethan from next door came over and asked me, "You were in a daze for 2 days. Were you really scared by a ghost?" I shook my head. "I don't know. I truly don't know. It's not that I don't want to tell you." After waking up, all I knew was that I'd been frightened into fainting, but what exactly had scared me, I couldn't recall. That whole segment of memory was blurry, like the thin rice porridge my mother used to cook. Lately, Sarah, my eldest sister, seemed to have gotten fatter but also thinner. I couldn't pinpoint the exact day I noticed the change. I just knew that once I did, I would watch her for a long time. Her hands remained dry and skeletal. Her eyes were constantly filled with fear and unease, her lips chapped, her skin pale. But beneath her loose-fitting clothes, her belly was slightly protruding. I kept staring, because that appearance was so familiar. Unlike plump children like me, with chubby cheeks and soft limbs you just wanted to pinch, my sister looked like a gaunt skeleton temporarily covered by sun-darkened skin. And then another strange thought popped into my head, as they often did, startling me. I sat on a rock in the yard, silently watching her carry water. Before, she was so strong, able to work all day without a grimace. Now, just lifting the carrying pole to her shoulder, I saw her clench her teeth in endurance, sweat pouring like rain, her dark face turning stark white. Every step was accompanied by 3 gasps for breath. I stared intently at her swollen belly. Just then, Mother emerged, seeing Sarah panting. She snapped, "Have I fed you for all these years just for you to eat like a useless temple-goer? A little work and you're breathing like you're dying. Do you think you're a young lady? What are you pretending? You hussy." Then she turned to me, her voice as gentle as water. "Jay, don't run around after dinner, all right?" I looked up at her, nodding. And in that moment, I suddenly understood why my sister's appearance was so familiar, because she looked exactly like my mother when she was pregnant, but my sister wasn't married. "Whose child is that? Speak up, yes or no. You rotten girl, at your age you can't stand being alone, can you? Can't live without a man, huh? And you dare let me see that bulging belly of yours." Everything finally came out. Sarah's condition could no longer be hidden. Her belly was visibly large, and she withered away day by day. I didn't know if the fetus in her belly was a baby. I saw it as a blood-sucking parasite. It sucked all the flesh and even the soul. Otherwise, why would both mother and my sister's bellies swell during pregnancy? Yet their entire bodies grew thinner and thinner. Lily and I were locked in our room, forbidden to go outside. Father, mother, and grandparents all told me, children shouldn't see these things. I sat still, but my ears caught the echoes from outside through the mud walls and thin wooden door cracks. I heard Sarah's screams, each one more painful, more feeble. I asked Lily, "Mother didn't have her baby like that, so why is Sarah hurting so much?" Lily glared at me, saying nothing. She never liked me much. Before, I rarely talked to her, but now it was just the two of us in the room. If I didn't talk to her, there was no one else. Are they hitting Sarah? How come Mother can have a baby, but Sarah can't? Shut up, don't say another word, Lily screamed, her eyes blazing with anger. I flinched, stepping back. Just then, another shriek echoed from outside, but this time it didn't seem to be Sarah's. You dare push me, you ungrateful beast. I raised you all these years, only to find you're worse than a dog. You fatherless trash, you even dare to put on airs, bringing that wretched thing into my house. Then Sarah's voice, weaker now. Mother, grandmother, please, you've both given birth, please don't make me abort it. I'll do anything you want. Please, please let me give birth to it. You still have the nerve to ask to give birth? How will this family face anyone? How will the whole village live this down? Swallow it back. Stuff a gag in her mouth. Don't let the neighbors hear, or this whole family will lose face in front of the village. That night I was woken by mosquito bites. Mother was no longer by my side fanning me, only Father was snoring like thunder. I was wide awake. And then, amidst Father's snores, I heard whispers outside in the yard. I stepped out barefoot. That sister's house, they dared to play such a trick. Such a good girl, ruined by him, now pregnant out of wedlock. Now she won't even fetch a good price if we sell her. I was planning to trade her for food for Jay. My son is at an age to eat and learn, about to enter the village school, everything costs money. Now it's all ruined by that despicable fellow. What could I do? I even got beaten for trying to interfere. It wasn't easy for me. Mother, this isn't over yet. Because Jay is our family's treasure, their family must compensate us fully for their daughter. Oh, stop arguing. No one can steal what belongs to Jay. And frankly, that girl has a small backside, flat chest, and isn't pretty. At best, she'd only fetch a few chickens if sold. Yet her husband was infatuated with her and did that asterisk to her. Aren't you afraid of retribution? With mouths to feed like this, you must pay us for the fetus. On what grounds? That's a huge sum. How can we live? On the grounds that Jay is a son, and you that eglaying hen have no right to bargain. Silence descended, then someone spoke coldly. That girl is already dirty, and now she's pregnant. That fetus is a bastard child, raising it is a burden. Better dead than alive. Kill it, take it to the mountain and dispose of it. Another voice, flat and emotionless, added, If the money has been paid, then she belongs to us. I sold her to old man Reed for a good profit. He likes pregnant women. A 7 or 8 month-old fetus, the baby meat is tender and sells for a good price. Who is old man Reed? I asked Ethan, my neighbor. His face paled. It was the first time I'd seen him scared. Why are you asking? Did you meet him? I shook my head. Is he that scary? Terrifyingly so. His voice truly trembled, not like he was trying to scare me. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, My mother says he eats people. My eyes widened, a chill ran down my spine, goosebumps covered my skin. Ethan continued, glancing around nervously. There was a famine once. Old man Reed killed and ate his whole family, his wife, children, parents just to survive. After that, he got used to it and became addicted. He lives at the end of the village, in the biggest, nicest house, because the village chief is afraid of him, giving him the house just to hope he won't eat the villagers. They say what he likes to eat most is women's flesh. My heart turned to ice. Back home, I asked, Where is Sarah? My mother replied, her face utterly devoid of expression. She's married off. I was surprised. Married to whom? Mother spoke as if dismissively. A good man in another village not nearby. This year, a drought struck. My daily egg was reduced to 1 a week. Mother, grandmother, Aunt Helen, everyone was visibly thinner. Skin clung to their bones, eyes sunken, their breathing light as wind through grass. What were they doing? Ethan and I squatted in the yard, peering through the fence. Cries echoed throughout the village. Then I saw a group of adults carrying out bundles, one by one. They were little girls. Some sobbed, some shrieked miserably, some had no emotion left, just stared blankly. Others thrashed like beached fish, but all were tightly bound, hands and feet unable to escape. Ethan, having seen the scene clearly, dismissed it, pulling his hand from the fence. They're probably just taking pigs to sell. Let's keep playing. I felt an unease in my heart, something gnawing at my chest, like swinging on a swing set built of thorns, one moment soaring, the next plummeting into an abyss. My mother said this year's drought is severe, probably because the gods are displeased. We have to offer little girls to the gods to serve and please them. If the gods are happy, next year we'll have a bountiful harvest. Ethan grinned, revealing his crooked teeth. Good harvest means you and I will have more eggs, nicer new clothes, and more spending money. My eyes lit up. Really? Have you seen the gods then? What do they look like? Ethan paused, frowning in thought. Never met one. I hesitated. Then why are those kids crying? Serving the gods is a very important thing. My mother even has to travel far to pray to Buddha. Why would they cry if they're serving the gods every day? I remembered the divine maiden from that year, sitting on the high platform amidst incense and cold rituals, but her face was full of tears and horror. Ethan, do you have to cry to meet the gods? I really want to meet them too. In the center of the village stood a high platform, connected to an ancient myth. People said that long ago, a divine maiden descended to earth, saw the villagers' poverty, and stayed to help. Later, when the goddess wished to return to heaven, the villagers built a high platform and a jade tower to send her up to the clouds. I heard that story since I was little. It was what made me believe in immortals and want to meet them. The platform was called High, but it was only 2 or 3 steps tall with a tower built upon it. The High was just for an impressive name. It was the most sacred place in the village. Whenever there was a major event, people gathered there. That day, Mother held my hand tightly, leading me to the high platform. Below, adults were densely packed. They bowed their heads, their faces as gray as dirt. In the crowd, I vaguely recognized some familiar faces. I also saw a cluster of bound little girls near the edge of the tower. They no longer had the strength to cry, only a few disjointed sobs, their eyes darting wildly. I clutched Mother's hand. One of them looked directly at me. Her skin was so dark that the whites of her eyes shone brightly, chillingly. She was as thin as a skeleton, her face a mere skull. She looked like a corpse. Scared, I hid behind Mother. Is it starting? What's starting, Mother? Mother didn't answer. She knelt down. I was about to kneel too. She pulled me up. No need, you don't need to kneel. I looked around. Grandmother, Aunt Helen, Aunt 2, and Aunt 3 were all kneeling, but my 3 uncles were standing. I didn't understand. I was about to ask when a piercing shriek rang out. It was the little girls being dragged away, screaming until their throats were raw. I don't want to die. Mother, save me. I'll be good. I'll wash dishes and cook. Don't kill me. Mother, Mother. I gripped Mother's hand and asked. They don't look like they're going to meet the gods. They look like they're going to die. Mother's face darkened, and she hissed softly. Quiet, don't say die. Thud, strong men dragged the children forward, ropes tightening on their flesh. The muddy path behind them stretched with a red trail. I saw the little girls being thrown into the tower, the iron door closing. I glimpsed fire, heard screams, the banging on the door, bones hitting the walls, cries of despair that became numb. I stood far away, but I saw it as clearly as if I were inside the tower. I was also in it, stepping on fire, stepping on human bodies, my hands red and pounding on the iron door. My cries could not quench the flames. My companions, one by one, were swallowed by the sea of fire. My skin, my flesh, my bones disappeared. I melted. I was no longer human. I was ashes in the gods' crucible. Mother woke me up. She said I'd been touched by bad luck and had called a master to exorcise it. The master used a willow branch to whip me a few times. It hurt so much I burst into tears, wailing and screaming for hours. Mother and grandmother quickly hugged me, soothing and coaxing me. They promised me everything in the world if only I would stop crying. Why do they eat those things? I asked Ethan, my neighbor. That's right, I finally remembered. I remembered what I had seen that day. I remembered what Mother and Aunt Helen had eaten. Strangely, I no longer felt scared. I clearly remembered the image of that small, red, soft baby girl being cooked in the pot, but I no longer felt the urge to faint as before. I thought it must be because I'm older now. I'm a boy, after all. It's nothing, Ethan replied casually, still playing in the dirt. You eat it if you want to eat it. I still didn't understand. What's it for? Is it useful? Another boy chimed in. Of course, so your mother can have a son. I hesitated, saying, but that little girl is a person too, just like us. The moment the words left my mouth, the others stopped playing and stared at me, full of curiosity as if I had said something incredibly strange. What did you just say? Who taught you that? I stammered, unable to answer. I didn't know why I had blurted out that sentence. Girls, they're not people, they're medicine. Medicine to help mothers give birth to sons. When they're small, they're medicine. When they grow up, they're pigs, they're dogs. How can they be people? Where did you get that kind of reasoning? Did your pig tell you that? I was trapped in their circle. Luckily, Ethan pulled me out of the argument. I whispered to him, but Mother and Aunt Helen ate the medicine and still didn't have a son. Ethan scratched his head. Well, you probably have to eat it many times for it to work. My family ate it repeatedly to get just me. My grandmother said back in the old days, when there were famines, many people ate their own daughters and then managed to have sons. That trick has been passed down since then. Lily was chosen to be the divine maiden. I heard the news after she had already been taken away. I frantically questioned Mother and Grandmother, badgering them until they answered. Knowing my lifelong fascination with immortals, they, though busy, held their tempers and replied. Lily has been taken to the village chief's house to prepare for the ritual. Will she meet the gods? I want to ask her so many things. No, my mother, who always indulged me the most, cut me off sternly. She is the divine maiden now, you cannot meet her casually. I threw a fit. I pulled Mother's hair, crying and throwing myself on the ground, threatening that if they didn't let me see Lily, I would starve myself to death. I cried so much that even Grandfather, who never bothered with anything, had to come out. Holding a pungent-smelling cigarette, he yelled at Mother and Grandmother for not knowing how to raise a child. Mother and Grandmother, who were usually sharp-tongued, were silent as quails then. It was funny. He had never taught me a single thing. Still, they wouldn't let me go. That afternoon, they cooked me a meal even more delicious than the day before. I pretended to happily eat everything, then grabbed my sandals and ran outside, calling, "I'm going to find Ethan, okay?" But I wasn't going to find Ethan. If they wouldn't let me go, I'd go myself. I would find Lily myself. I knew where the village chief's house was. I knew the way. The dog guarding the chief's gate recognized me. It didn't bark, just wagged its tail happily. I pulled out a leftover chicken bone from my pocket, reluctantly sucked on it a little more, then threw it to the dog. It happily crunched on it. Meanwhile, I grandly stepped into the chief's yard. It was midday, and most of the adults were in the fields. The chief's house had 3 rooms. I didn't know where Lily was, so I stealthily crept to the back, pressing my eyes against each window, tiptoeing to peer into each room. I stopped before a room so small I thought no one could possibly be in it. She's the divine maiden, I thought. Everyone reveres God so much, how could they lock her in this cramped room? But I heard faint sounds emanating from within, soft, like stifled sobs, very much like Lily's voice. The small room had no window, so I couldn't look in. I could only approach and tap lightly on the wooden door. "Lily," I called very softly. From inside, a rough, dull voice like dry sand wind blowing through a snake's corpse echoed, "Who is it?" I froze, hesitating. "It's your brother." Lily had never been as affectionate towards me as Sarah. Unlike Sarah, who was always gentle and yielding, Lily often chose to be beaten by Mother and Grandmother rather than give me anything. Over the years, she had become the person I feared most in the house because I knew she would never yield to me. "What are you doing here? Do you think I'm a joke? Get out." I flinched, instinctively wanting to turn and run, afraid she would suddenly open the door, grab me, drag me in, and beat me. But I only ran a few steps. I stopped, then turned back to stand before that door once more. I knew she was crying. I remembered the divine maiden from that year crying too. Those tears were deeply etched in my memory. I had always wondered if divine maidens cried to pray for blessings for us. Was it true? I asked the question I had kept in my heart for a very long time. "Lily, do divine maidens pray for blessings with their tears?" The room fell silent. I thought she wouldn't answer. I thought she would scold me or even open the door and hit me. But then she spoke, "If you open the door, I'll tell you." I looked at the wooden door. What was she doing that she couldn't even open the door herself? I pushed, but there was only a wooden bar blocking it, blocked as if the person inside had no strength left to escape. I removed the wooden bar and the door swung open. I saw no altar, no incense smoke, no Buddha statue, no ritual lamps at all. Only a skinny girl, hair disheveled, tied so tightly her body was bent. It was Lily. Her eyes stared at me resentfully, as if I were the one who had imprisoned her there. "Lily, you're the divine maiden, why are you tied up like this?" She let out a bitter laugh. Her eyes, her laugh, seemed to crush the very title of divine maiden in her mouth. But she didn't scold me as usual. Her voice softened. "Jay, come here and help me untie these ropes." "Are you trying to escape?" The moment I finished speaking, the atmosphere in the room instantly froze. I saw the light in her eyes flicker out like a lamp running out of oil. We were silent for a long time. Finally, I said, "Lily, if you want to escape, I'll help you." She looked up disbelievingly. I stepped forward, knelt beside her, and began to untie each tangled knot. I didn't pay attention to her stunned, moved, and even fearful gaze. because in that moment, I suddenly thought that the divine maiden's tears were perhaps not for prayer, but the only thing they could keep for themselves. Jay, you're not like the others here. The sound of the ropes being untied was faint. It was also when I heard Lily whisper those words. Her voice contained a hint of doubt, as if she didn't understand why I was different from the other people in the village, even though I had also grown up here. And in truth, I didn't understand why Lily, after escaping, was caught and brought back. Mother and grandmother went mad, beating her with all their might, their mouths spewing all kinds of filthy words. They cursed at her without reservation. I knew why. They had received money. If Lily was gone, the money would be gone too. They unleashed all their fury on her. I rushed in, wailing and throwing a fit, crying and pounding my chest. I'm hungry, I want meat, I want eggs. That was when they stopped, soothing me as always, carrying me home. I lay on Mother's shoulder, my tears not yet dry, turning my head to look at Lily, being dragged away like a dead fish, lying motionless on the ground. The distance between Lily and me grew farther and farther, until I could no longer see her. On the day of the blessing ceremony, I looked up again. This time, it was Lily standing on the platform. She didn't cry, but there was no emotion left in her eyes. It was as if those eyes had run dry of tears a very long time ago. That night, after the ritual, father, grandfather, and the uncles were all absent from home. I seized the moment Mother and grandmother were busy cooking to sneak out. It was very dark, only the cold moonlight illuminated the rough dirt path. I ran straight to the village chief's house, hiding behind a tree, then a wall, then burrowing into a grassy ditch. I saw one man come out, then another, then another. I squeezed through a dog hole, pushed open the door, and climbed into the house. I peeked through a window. I saw a room crammed with men, and in the center of the room was Lily. Only tattered scraps of clothing remained on her. I recognized many familiar faces. My father was there. My grandfather was there. I fled, thinking of nothing else, just running without purpose, without a destination. The wind shrieked in my ears, scratching my face raw. In my head, Lily's screams from that room echoed, reverberating with every step I took endlessly. I heard men's voices, scornful laughter, crude jokes as if from hell. My legs turned to jelly. I tripped on a rock, tumbling onto the roadside, rolling to a place I didn't know. It was too dark, I couldn't see anything. I crawled up, terrified and panicked, glancing around, then continued to run. As if a demon were chasing me, I wailed, "Mother, grandmother!" I crawled and rolled, not knowing where I had run to. It was still dark, I still couldn't see anything. I fell again. This time, it hurt so much I burst into tears. Both my hands were bleeding, my cheeks raw, surely scraped. I didn't dare to cry out loud. I was afraid the wild beasts on the mountain would hear me. But I wanted to cry so loudly, because I looked down and saw a tiny corpse. It was so small that at first I thought it was a baby animal, but looking closely, it resembled a human more. The moment that thought flashed, I screamed, retreating forcefully. Crash! Something behind me collapsed. I froze, slowly turning my head. I saw a small shack that had just fallen, and behind it were many other shacks. When I had run here, I hadn't seen them at all. They were like the tower in the middle of the village. Suddenly, memories that didn't belong to me flooded my mind. Voices I had never heard, images I had never seen. Like parasites finding a host, straining to burrow in and cling to my soul. That year, if the fortune teller hadn't said your fate was to give birth to a son, I would never have kept you. You should be grateful to your younger brother. It was he who saved your rotten life. Without him, you would have been drowned in the river by now. What have you enjoyed by still being alive? I raised you, fed you, sent you to school for years, gave you clothes to wear, and now what have you done for this family? You are truly an ungrateful dog. Those voices, those images, burrowed deeper and deeper into my head, making me recoil constantly, wanting to shake my head vigorously to dispel them. I saw a girl, as thin as Sarah, and Lily, as weak and timid as any woman in my village. Mother, please have mercy on me. I will do everything you say. Please don't kill me. I've kept your worthless life for too long. Now your younger brother is at the age to eat and grow. He needs more food than you. You're dark and skinny like a stick. You won't sell for much. The village chief paid me 5 eggs. Letting you serve the gods is a blessing for you. What does a girl like you have to complain about, Mother? The girl screamed as if her heart and lungs were being ripped out. Mother, you're sending me to my death? You know it, yet you still send me. You are a girl. Girls are born to die for men. What else are they good for? I don't want to die. I saw it. I saw the girl kneeling, begging for life. I saw the girl wailing before her mother, the one who had given birth to her, raised her, and was now pushing her into the furnace. I saw the fire consuming her body. I saw despair, pain, agonizing screams, and absolute helplessness. That was me, my past life. I was once a little girl burned in the sacrificial tower, burned to the bone, turned to ashes. Before I died, I prayed, "In my next life, please let me be a boy." That prayer was accepted. I was reborn as the most cherished boy in the house, no longer eaten, no longer sacrificed alive, no longer called a dog or medicine. I was educated, fed, pampered, things I could only dream of in my past life. If I turned a blind eye, I would forever be the family's precious child, living a comfortable life at the expense of other girls. But if I intervened, I could die. And if I died, what if I were reborn as a girl again? I just needed to pretend not to know, but I knew. No one knew better than I did. We were all human, all born from a mother's womb. Yet girls were not people. They were medicine, they were meat, they were pigs, they were dogs. I was afraid of being a girl, but wasn't that fear also another kind of tragedy? I had seen the divine maiden weeping, the little girl screaming, begging to live, the soulless child waiting to die, the newborn girl whose fate was sealed by her gender. I saw them all as me, ashes in the sacrificial tower. Fetal flesh on the altar, discarded corpses piled high behind the tower. I couldn't pretend not to see, couldn't forget Lily's eyes as she was dragged away, couldn't forget the call for mother echoing in the fire. I stumbled and crawled in the darkness again, not knowing how many times I had fallen, my entire body covered in mud and dirt, my mouth full of sand. I looked up. Ahead was a house, brightly lit. I saw groups of men going in and out, their faces bearing dirty smiles, their mouths uttering lewd jokes, the stench of wild beasts wearing human faces. I set fire to the pile of grass nearby. "Jay, what are you doing?" A voice suddenly rang out behind me. I startled, spinning around. A blazing red fire behind me was spreading rapidly. Ethan stood a short distance away, silently staring as if he couldn't believe his eyes. My mind was a mess. I didn't want to explain, nor did I want to think why he was there. At this moment, I didn't care. I'd wait until people noticed, then I'd run. Everyone rushed to put out the fire. I stood from afar, turning my head back to look. The fire raged more fiercely than before, painting the sky red. The sight filled me with both grim satisfaction and terror. I dared not look again. I burrowed into a bush, weaving through the crowd, escaping the scrutinizing gazes of the adults. "The outside is burning. Hurry, go help. So many people here and still can't put it out. Why did it suddenly catch fire? The fire's too big, it's spreading to the mountain. Hurry, don't forget the crucible." I waited until the house was empty, then I snuck in. "Lily, Lily." I didn't dare look directly at the person lying there. There wasn't a single uninjured spot on her body. I picked up a piece of cloth, not knowing whose it was, and covered her. If it weren't for the faint rise and fall of her chest, I would have thought I was too late. "Sister, come with me, please. Can we leave this place?" She slightly opened her eyes, her breath weak. Her tears seemed to have long dried up, but seeing me, a single tear still spilled from the corner of her eye. She gently shook her head. "No, I can't go." I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to swallow my own tears. "Sister, we can go if only you'll try. You've endured so much pain already, just a little more. I'll take you away from here. Sister, please, get up." She tilted her head, her eyes seemingly asking, "Why are you begging me? This is my fate." "Sister, there isn't much time left. They'll be back soon. You hate me, don't you? Then let me take you away. We'll go somewhere you'll never have to see me or mother or grandmother again." I was afraid she wouldn't go. I was even more afraid that if she didn't go, I would stop too. I led her through the dog hole. Luckily, she was thin enough to fit. And even more luckily, the village chief's dog was too fat, so they had dug a really big hole. She wore the loose-fitting shirt, taking difficult steps, panting. "Where are we going? I can't go, Jay. Last time, I didn't even make it out of the foothills before I was caught. It's hard to hide during the day, and at night it's even more disorienting. There are wild beasts on the mountain, and people guarding the village below. Anywhere we go is death." "We'll make it," I said with conviction. I led her up the mountain, showing her the way. I recounted every landmark marking the escape route. It was the path that, in my previous life, I and the other sisters chosen for the sacrifice had secretly mapped out. But none of us managed to escape. We hadn't even made it to the middle of the mountain. I felt all over my body. I only had a small pouch. Inside were a few loose coins, an amulet for safety that Mother had tucked into my clothes, telling me to keep it at all costs. I gave it to Lily. I gave her all the safety I had. She looked at me, her eyes, which were once bright as night stars, always sparkling with anger and resentment, now only trembled. She asked, "Jay, are you coming with me?" I was silent for a moment, then shook my head. I pointed to the path ahead, the dark night, the deep forest, but around it, fireflies gathered. Tiny dots quietly flew up, forming a luminous path, as if lighting the way for her. "Sister, just go. This path, we've already cleared it." The fireflies gathered into a river of stars. I stood from afar, watching her silhouette gradually disappear into the forest without looking back. I turned and ran straight back towards the villagers. I loudly reported to them, "I saw Lily." They wouldn't suspect me because I was a boy. I was on their side. My mother cursed Lily for an entire week after she escaped, shaming our family. Ethan was beaten and scolded. The whole village thought he was the one who started the fire. His parents had to bow their heads in apology everywhere. To appease everyone, they cursed him in front of the villagers and even gave him a beating. His cries echoed throughout the village. I just watched. I didn't understand why he didn't say it was me. Just one sentence, and he could have been acquitted, but he said nothing. I saw Old Man Reed, white-haired, the character whispered about by villagers in stories to scare children. That day was clear, perhaps why he was wandering outside. His eyes were bloodshot, the white scarce, full of red veins, no different from a wild beast. When villagers saw him, no one dared to greet him, only quietly hurried past. "What are you staring at him for?" Ethan's voice suddenly rang out behind me, grabbing my hand and pulling me away. After the fire incident, we hadn't played together again. I was a bit surprised when he appeared today. "Ethan, why didn't you explain before?" His face shifted from awkwardness to confusion. He scratched his head repeatedly, then sighed and plopped onto the ground. "That day, I followed my father outside." "Maybe because you kept wondering why the divine maiden cried, I also found it strange. That night, Mother put me to bed, but I'm grown up now, how could I sleep? I secretly followed Father outside and saw." His voice trailed off. Even though we were young, we both knew there were things we shouldn't know. I just hummed a reply, then suddenly realized. Ethan, even now still my playmate, would also grow into a man, just like those men that night. Smoking, laughing crudely, talking as if women were mere objects. Ethan bowed his head, silent for a very long time. Suddenly, he looked up. "Jay, but I think that's wrong." I looked up. "You once said your sister is a person, not a dog, not a pig. You said eating children's meat is wrong because little girls are people too." At that time, I didn't understand. But later, at school, I read in books that it's completely different from what my parents told me. Everyone fears Old Man Reed for eating people, but some women eat the very children they give birth to. Isn't that even more terrifying? Books say even fierce tigers don't eat their cubs. Are humans more frightening than tigers? Ethan spoke, tears streaming down his face. Perhaps because he couldn't bear the shock of the true world being so different from the one he was taught. "I want to learn to read, Ethan. Will you teach me?" "Yes," he nodded, wiping his tears and picking up a dry branch. Ethan began to write crooked strokes on the ground. "Learning to read hurts, Jay. Are you going to quit school?" "No, I want to understand." During dinner, I accidentally blurted out, "Mother, today I saw Old Man Reed looking at me." Everyone stopped eating, all eyes immediately fixed on me. Grandmother hugged me tightly, mumbling, my child," asking me how he looked. Everyone knew Old Man Reed was in the village today. I recounted playing near the road and how he walked past and stared. Luckily, Ethan had pulled me away. Immediately, everyone's expressions changed. Old Man Reed ate people. If he looked at someone, wasn't it like a beast choosing its prey? A few days later, Old Man Reed came down to the village again. This time, I was out for a walk with Mother. Mother was chatting with some neighbors. Just as we were about to leave, Old Man Reed turned onto the road we were on. Just moments before, the women had been talking and laughing loudly, but now everyone held their breath, like chickens waiting for their throats to be cut. The children's playing sounds suddenly quieted. I pretended to be innocent, clutching my clay toy, and ran towards Mother. As I passed Old Man Reed, I deliberately bumped lightly into him. He turned and stared intently at me. I could distinctly feel his burning gaze piercing my back. My mother froze for a second, then rushed to hug me tightly, so tight I couldn't move. I struggled and whined as usual. But this time, Mother wasn't gentle as she normally was. Even though she was merely skin and bones, her embrace was like steel. I couldn't see anything, but the sound of her heart beating like a war drum echoed from her chest. I heard it clearly. "No more, let's go home, child." For the next few days, I wasn't allowed to leave the house. Even to use the latrine, Mother insisted on coming with me. I didn't know how terrifying Old Man Reed's gaze had been that day, but from Mother's restless, sleepless, fear-driven madness, I felt I had aged several years. I knew how to write, how to draw, and I knew where Old Man Reed lived. I snuck out of the house. No one stopped me on the way. His door was wide open. He probably thought his dreadful reputation was enough to keep anyone in the village from daring to enter. He wasn't home. The weather was nice these days, so he often wandered outside. Inside, I saw countless women's belongings: hairpins, handkerchiefs, dress hems, all faintly smelling of death. For a moment, I thought I saw a few familiar items, like Sarah's, but too much time had passed, and I couldn't be sure. I quietly left a single shoe. I felt I shouldn't continue living, at least not with this privileged identity. My current life was too smooth, too beautiful, so much so that at times it wavered my resolve, making me think things were meant to be this way. I gradually began to forget. The first thing to fade was the pain. I remembered snatching clothes, washing dishes in winter, but forgot the feeling of ice cutting my hands. I remembered being beaten until my skin tore for forgetting to boil an extra egg for my brother, but forgot why I cried until I fainted. I remembered kneeling, begging for a way to live, my head hitting the dirt until it bled, but forgot what I had begged for. The flames consuming bodies, remembering the screams of friends, remembering unburnt corpses beneath my feet. But I was forgetting how hot the fire was, how putrid the blood. Sometimes I even wondered, are eggs really that hard to come by? Is the river water truly that cold in winter? Is a path to survival really that difficult? I must not forget. I was afraid my future self would deny the past, afraid that I, as an adult, would become the very sword that pierced the child who was once burned. I crawled into the child abandonment tower. The space was cramped. I had to curl up. Sunlight occasionally streamed through the brick cracks, illuminating my face. Drowsiness enveloped me, consciousness slowly fading until my breath ceased. Schools had no pink dresses, child abandonment towers buried no boys' bones. A male body, a female fate. Other than working in the fields, no one saw the boy for an entire afternoon. Aunt Helen felt her guts burn like fire. Rushing home, she called everywhere. Jay, calling repeatedly, no answer. She ransacked every room, thinking her son was sulking and hiding, but found no trace. Panicked, she ran out the door, through the village, and down to the foothills where her son used to play, screaming his name. No one answered. Weeping, Aunt Helen returned. The moment she stepped through the gate, her husband pointed at her, scolding her fiercely. If others hadn't held him back, he would have hit his wife. How could you watch our child? He threw one more command. Go find him. Then frantically ran off, as if he had always been diligent in raising children. On the first day, the entire family spread out. No one slept when night fell. On the second day, villagers were mobilized to search the mountain, saying he might have fallen into a beast trap. They dug all over the mountainside but found no trace. On the third day, crossing into the next village, Aunt Helen and her mother-in-law virtually turned over an entire hill, their feet blistered and bleeding, but still no sign of the child. Did he wander off, or was he taken by wild beasts? Or did he slip into the river and drift away? Aunt Helen, hearing this, shrieked, wanting to fight anyone who dared to say such things. On the fourth, fifth day, her father-in-law was the first to give up, feigning weakness. Her husband was the second to give up, saying, "I'll wait for him at home." No one knew what day it was anymore. Aunt Helen was visibly thinner, her hair disheveled, her cheeks sunken and pale, her eyes hazy like someone who hadn't slept for nights. She suddenly remembered someone, Old Man Reed. Before the incident, her son had said Old Man Reed kept staring at him. That day, she herself had seen the old man's gaze fixed on the child. He ate people, preferring the flesh of women and children most. What if that day she hadn't been home and he had stealthily entered and eaten her son? Aunt Helen went mad, running through the village, screaming loudly, "Old Man Reed ate my son." She clutched Chief Miller's hand, forcing him to demand justice. The villagers all knew that Aunt Helen's only son had disappeared without a trace. Some even said he was probably taken by mountain spirits. But when they heard her wailing, Old Man Reed's name appeared in everyone's minds as an obvious answer. Oh, right. Why did the boy suddenly disappear? If Old Man Reed caught him and took him home to eat, we'd never find his body even if we searched the sky. I think I saw him wandering on the road that day. Maybe he saw the child on his way home and carried him away. I also saw how he looked at other people's children, like a hungry dog seeing raw meat. Aunt Helen's family only has one son. Now that he's gone, it's like losing half their lives. Well, she can just try to have another child. Eat more child soup. Didn't our family do the same and manage to have another? Chief Miller trembled, pulled by Aunt Helen all the way to Old Man Reed's house. A few curious villagers followed to see what would happen. Aunt Helen just wanted to go inside to see for herself, but she didn't dare go alone. Her husband and mother-in-law both flatly refused, saying, "Who would dare cross Old Man Reed?" So she had to wail and throw herself on the ground, forcing everyone to accompany her. Chief Miller stood outside, called a few times, received no answer, then said, "He's probably not home. Let's come another day." In truth, he was afraid, for years ago he himself had seen Old Man Reed eat his own wife. When he got home, he had a high fever for several days. Aunt Helen shrieked, "No, I must go in." Everyone outside craned their necks to look, no one dared to step forward. She alone rushed straight into the house. The space was utterly silent, not a sound. Everyone began to grow anxious. Then a piercing scream tore through the air, turning everyone's faces pale. "He's dead." Did the old man catch him and eat him alive? But inside, there was no Old Man Reed, no bloody scene as they'd imagined. Only Aunt Helen stood there, holding a small shoe. It was her son's shoe, undeniable proof. The boy must have been eaten by Old Man Reed. Her eyes bloodshot, her face distorted, she shrieked, "Chief Miller, you must do justice for me." Chief Miller remained silent. The onlookers began to advise, "Let it go, it's just bad luck. You can try to have another child. Eat nourishing food. My daughter-in-law is pregnant now. If it's a girl, I'll let you cook her into soup." Aunt Helen refused to give up. She saw that they were all just good at talking because the dead child wasn't theirs. Their eyes looked at her with pity and relief. In that moment, an unprecedented fire of hatred erupted within her heart. Hatred for Old Man Reed for eating her son, hatred for her husband who only knew how to gamble and wouldn't watch their child, hatred for her father-in-law who lay in bed smoking opium, uncaring of life or death. Hatred for the timid Chief Miller, and hatred for all the neighbors who only knew how to watch the spectacle. In June 2020, police suddenly appeared in the mountain village. Chief Miller sweated profusely, the villagers uneasy. Returning from afar, Sophia stood amidst a scene both familiar and strange, bewildered, feeling as if she were still a child running freely through the cornfields. Police accompanied her, as did journalists. She herself had spent years bringing this horrific story to the outside world, then led people back to investigate. In her memory, there was always the image of her chubby younger brother. She wondered what the brother who had once helped her escape looked like now. Sophia followed her memories back to the old house, now dilapidated. Grandparents were gone, mother had gone insane, father had remarried, her younger brother was dead. Aunt Helen recounted that her younger brother had been eaten by Old Man Reed. Sophia's mother went completely mad. After that, Old Man Reed, having acquired a taste for it, continued to snatch more children. The indignant villagers stormed in and killed the old man. He still cried out, "I didn't eat them." But who believed him anymore? It was then they realized that the one they had feared so long was merely a weak, feigning body. Sophia's mother wandered all over the mountain, searching for her child, her hand forever clutching the pair of children's shoes found in Old Man Reed's house. Aunt Helen's eyes welled up as she recounted this part. Old enmities forgotten, now only tears of sorrow remained when recalling the past. When the police and reporters saw the densely packed child abandonment towers, the sacrificial altar in the center of the village, they finally understood that Sophia's words were not exaggerated. Before the tiny, living graves, everyone fell silent. In one tower, they found a stray skeleton. The forensic doctor said, "The bones of a boy," astonishing everyone. People speculated that perhaps the boy had playfully climbed in, gotten stuck, and starved to death inside. They also found a small notebook. The writing was crooked, a mixture of Romanized script and drawings, but it meticulously documented the crimes in this village, almost every word from Sophia's account. The last page read, "I am a girl.